Today we're going to be talking about puff embroidery and how to do it. And we will be comparing the difference between Chroma Inspire and Chroma Lux. Right now I'll be using the Chroma Inspire version to start off with, and then we'll end up with the Lux so you can see the difference. When you're using Inspire, you have to physically create the puff yourself, whereas in the Lux version, it'll do it for you. And those are the differences that we're going to talk about. So let's get right into it. Let's start off by picking a text, and I'm going to select my text tool and just click on the screen. Now, if I started typing what I wanted, I'm going to type puff, nothing happens. If I click up here on this little window and I click puff, there it shows up, and if I click apply, it then materializes on the screen. If you would like to type on the screen, something that you could do is you could set it up this way, and this will work both for Inspire and Lux. You would go to the Tools menu right on top, go to General Options, and then go to the View screen, and here we're going to click on the on-screen text typing. So once I click that, I click OK. Now when I select my text tool and I select on the screen, I can just type exactly what I want. Right click, and it automatically is done. We're going to be working with this text right here. So let's get rid of this one, and we're just going to work with this one right here. Let's make that in the center, and let's zoom in a little bit. Now, if you look at this particular text, I'm going to play it. It is in 3D mode. I'm going to play it through so you can see what we're talking about. Now, when we're doing texts, you'll notice that there's an underlay in the text as it writes it. And when you're doing puff embroidery, you do not want the underlay because that will pre-compress your foam, therefore defeating your purpose of having puff. So if you're going to put all this underlay on here, it's just going to pre-compress the foam and it's not going to work. So instead of doing that, what we would do is right off the bat, as soon as you're done in Inspire, you're going to go to your underlay tool, and we're going to remove the underlay and click apply. So now when we play it through, notice there's not going to be any underlay whatsoever. It's just going to be this satin stitch. So think of this satin stitch as a dome, and the puff is going to go underneath it. And everywhere the satin stitch touches on the edges, it's going to perforate that foam and allow you to cut it out or just pop it out, okay? Now in this case, this stitch is not dense enough because if you notice, there's a lot of little gaps in between. So we want to make sure that these gaps are fixed and removed so that we don't have the puff sticking out. You want to make sure that the stitches actually cut the foam all the way through. So typically anywhere between a 0.20 and a 0.18 is right where you want to be. So let's go to 118, and now notice when I click apply, the letters are going to get really tight. Okay, so now there's hardly any space in between the stitches, and that will perforate the foam really well. All right, so that's one thing. But now in the case of this P here, we're left with a dome here, and there is nothing on this edge that's going to cut the foam. I'm going to show you an example, and if you take a look at the B, you'll notice that I added, it was a regular text, and all I did was add foam to the very end of it. It has the underlay and everything else, and you'll notice that on the very B, the foam didn't cut very well because I had to tear it out because nothing perforated it. So anytime you have texts like this, you want to create a cap, and what the cap is going to do is it's going to actually cut the foam and perforate it so that when you're done, you can just peel it and rip it right off. So there's a couple different styles of caps that you can do. The most simple is to just draw a simple satin stitch right where you want it. So I'm gonna pick a color that is gonna stand out. So I'm gonna pick, oh, I don't want that. Let's go back to our original red. We're gonna go to the satin stitch. I will pick a blue color, and I'm gonna do this on top of this letter, and then we'll send it to the back so that you can see how it's going to work. So in this case right here, I'm going to create a satin stitch just on the inside. Sometimes you want it to stick out just a little bit, so I'm going to start here, and I'm going to bevel the edge just a little bit inside. And I'm going to right click. So now notice this leading edge here is going to perforate the foam, and then when I have this satin stitch over it, it's going to cut it. So this edge will be cut and this edge will be cut here, but I need this to be a little bit more dense. So I'm going to hit F7 so that it gets my selector tool, and I can move here to my density, and we can change that. Usually 120 or a 0.20 is fine. In this case, we're going to keep it consistent and go with 18. And I'm going to click apply. And now you can see that the edge right there is really, really fine, and it's going to perforate that foam very well. You don't want to go too close to the edge. If you had done a parallel satin stitch, let's say we did this like that. If we did something that looks like this. All right, and let's change the density as well. So when I click F7, I can go here and just put my 0.18, click enter, apply. If I do this, sometimes what happens is as this satin stitch goes over the blue, sometimes little threads will stick out. So anytime you're making these type of caps, it's better to just bevel the edge in. So I'm just going to bring that little edge in just a little bit like that, and that way it will give me a better cap and a better result. And again, you want to have it stick out just a little bit. You want to have it stick out just a hair, okay, so that it covers the cap. So here it might be sticking out a little bit too much, but we can just move it back in. All right, just like this. Perfect. Once I have this cap done, I can hit my F7. It's going to highlight it. I can right click and I'm going to duplicate, and here I'm just going to put another one here, and when I click F7 it will select it, and I can just move it in place. And we're going to fix these tags in just a little bit, so I'm going to show you a way to do it so that it fixes itself. We need caps for this end, and this end. So anywhere that the letter is sticking out, you want to create a cap for it. So we're going to go back to our satin tool, and again we're going to bevel it just a little bit. So I start just a little bit outside, go inside, just a little bit on the outside, go inside, right click, and I'm going to change that to 1.8. Now I can go ahead and just change it to 0.18 right now, and that way all my stitches will be like that. So if we go to F7, select it, we can go to 1.18, hit apply, and now every time I draw, if I go back to the satin stitch, it's going to be 1.8, so I don't have to keep repeating and changing it. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start on the outside, work our way in, outside, in, right click, outside, in, outside, in, right click. Perfect. And we're going to do the same thing with these. Now, because I already have these done, I can just select them. I can take this one, I can hit my command key, select this one and that one. I can right click, duplicate, and place it here, and all three of them are connected. And when I go to F7, I can hit the command key and select all three of them again and just move them into place. So that's one way where you don't have to keep clicking and moving stuff around. So that's perfect right there. So now I have all my ends capped, but I have all these jump stitches and I need to get rid of those. So this is where we're going to start fixing our path. And if we are doing a cap, we want to do the U first, and then the F, and then this F, and then the P. So we're gonna have to change things around. So I'll probably do the two F's first, and then I'll move and work my way to the right. So we're gonna start from the center and move to the right, and then once those F's are done, we're gonna go to the left. So this is how we're gonna do that. We're gonna go here. Before we start moving things around and fixing the path, we're gonna break up this text, because otherwise every time we select it, it's just one solid unit. So if we click on the name here, we can right click, and here it says break up text. And now you'll notice that each letter is individual, and if I took it, I could move it out of the way. So let's go back so we can leave it right in its place. So I'm gonna take the U and move that below this, and I'm gonna take the P and move it under the U. So now it's gonna do the F in the middle first, and then it's going to go to the next F, then it's going to go to the U, and then the P. Initially though, I want to start the tack down procedure. So my last 3 stitches were for these Fs. So there's a little bit of playing around that you have to do. So I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to group them, and I'm going to move them under the first F. Okay? Actually, I'm going to put them under the second F. And then I'm going to select the next set and select all of them. Right click, group those, and move them under the first F. We're going to leave it on top for now, and then you'll see how we're going to move it to the back in just a moment. But we're going to select these 2, group them, and put them under the U. And this one, we don't need to group it because it's only one. We're just going to put it right under the P, which it is. So that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, in order to fix the path, we're going to take this here, and this one is broken up into 3 different sections. So we're going to ungroup it, and you can see that it's 3 different sections. So we're going to change the order, and we're going to start from the top, middle, and bottom. Now, from this one, I'm going to go to my run stitch, and while I'm still in the color blue, I'm just going to make a little run stitch, go from here to there, right click, and then from here to here and right click. So now I have these 2 run stitches, and what they're going to do is they're going to connect everything so that I don't have any cuts, because right now if I were to do only the caps, it would trim it. And also this 1 run stitch is going to serve as kind of like a tack down stitch on the puff itself. So if I take my run stitch and I'm going to put it right underneath this satin stitch, and then I'm going to take my next run stitch and put it underneath the second satin stitch. So there we have it. Let's just run through the blue part by itself. So if we hide that F and we were to play it, notice it's going to start with the first cap, run over to the next cap, and then run over to the last cap. So that's exactly what I want, okay? And we can repeat that process for this letter. But instead of doing all that work again, all I have to do is select these stitches, right click, duplicate, and I'm just gonna move them over here, and I will select all of them and group them into one. Okay, so now I can take this and just delete that and take this whole group and put it right on top of there. So you see, I already did the work. I don't need to do it again. That's a quick way of doing it. And now that group is there, and we're going to take this group and put it underneath the next F, which is this one. So there we have it. All right, and let's open that. So now we have our 2 Fs done. And on these caps here, when you select the cap, you want to make sure that it's under normal. There shouldn't be any trim. So as it goes from one to the other, this should be no trim. On the last one, I do want it to trim because I don't want it to have a jump stitch from one to the other. And I can click apply. Same thing with this one. This one I want it doesn't really matter because that'll be the end of that. And so now we've done the first 2 Fs. Now we're going to work on the U. So for the U, I want to make this cap first, then kind of work my way down and make that cap. So if I click these 2, and I ungroup them, I'm going to go to my run stitch and just make one from here. And again, this will serve as my tack down stitch. But I want this stitch to be right in between the U's. So once I put it here, it's going to go right underneath, and that's fine. Now, notice how these are still jumping from one to the other, right? So we want to remove that jump. So from here, it should go, oh, you know what I did? This one has to go first. So let's swap them. Let's make this one go here, and we'll make that one go under there. There it is. So you see, it's all about the right order. So now it's going to create this satin cap, then do the run stitch, create that cap, and on the last one, I do want it to trim because I don't want it to run into the P, and I click apply. Now on the P, I'm going to have it tack down the whole letter and then do the cap. So I'm going to take my run stitch and I'm going to start it here and just kind of go around and down to here and right click, and there's my P, but I want that to be before the satin. So I'm going to just swap these around and put the satin underneath the run stitch. There we go. All right, so if we were to hide all the letters, we're going to run it down, and you're going to see exactly how it's going to look when it runs. There it is. So it's going to start with the first F, tack down the foam, make my caps, and it's going to jump to the next one. And remember, you're digitizing for a cap, so make sure that whatever you digitize for, you're using the right sequence and the right path. And finally, we're going to finish with the P. Okay, that's it. So now it's just a matter of taking the red letters and putting them underneath the puff, which is super easy. We can activate all the letters again. And in this case, I'm just going to swap them. I'm just going to grab this and put it under there. Take this group, put it under. Take this group, put it under. This one under. And that's it. I'm done. Notice how they are sticking out a little bit. If you put the cap too close to the edge, sometimes these little edges may fall off and they'll fray. But this is what a complete puff job is going to look like. So again, if we run it through, it's going to start from the middle and work its way out. It's going to make all the caps first. Write the letters, make all the caps first. Write the letters. Perfect. And that's fine. Now, for this P, because we're cutting the edge of the foam right there, we don't need to put another cap here. That's already going to be taken care of. So we really don't need to worry about that. If you were worried about it, what you could do is you could change the start and stop point to make sure that it cuts correctly. So if we have it start here instead and have it end over here, that might be a better way to configure it. So let's do that again. Let's just take a look at the P, which is the last one. It's going to start at the base, and then that one stitch is going to come across, and it's going to cut everything down. Now, I don't need to add anything here because these two stitches are going to just cancel each other out, and it's going to cut the puff. So this is it. Now, there are certain texts that you don't need to add the caps to, because, for example, if you have a satin stitch, let's pick another text, for example. Let's see. We're going to just pick on our screen here. Let's zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to write the same letter puff. And let's pick a different font. Let's say something like this. Let's say we pick this cursive font here. Now, in this font, let's zoom in so you could see. Anywhere where you have a little gap like this, you might want to put a little cap on that little gap right there. So on this one, since the stitches are all going to cut the foam, you really don't need it. Okay, you're not going to need to put a cap here. If we were to make this end come to a point, we wouldn't need to put a cap. So if we went to our tool, let's break this text up so that we could see it, so that we can manipulate it. So we're going to go here, we're going to right click, break up text, and now we're going to be able to manipulate the files individually. There we go. So if we zoom into this, sometimes if it ends in a point, you might not need to put a cap on it. So if we were to take these two little points here, let's move this over. And if I were to take that little edge and bring it right to here, when it stitches out, it's going to cut the tip right there. And then we can do the same thing to all these. So if I did that to all the tips of the fonts on all these little serifs, I could essentially remove the need to do any type of tips. Now, one thing, you can see the underlay peeking through here, right? So one thing to keep in mind is that when you do puff, we need to remove all the underlay. So we're going to select these letters, go to the underlay tool, and remove that underlay. We don't want any of that underlay to be there. Let's get rid of everything. Apply. There we go. So we want to make sure we get rid of all the underlay. Okay? So that when we run this test, there's not going to be any underlay whatsoever. Let's get rid of it all. There we go. So let's take a look at that. Let's run that real quick. We're going to be here. So there is going to be a kind of like a tack down stitch, but there's no underlay. There's not all that zigzag, and the tack down stitch will serve as a way to hold it. But as long as your edges are rounded and there's not this little cup at the end or this little opening, you're fine. So in this one, I would just make this down, go it down into a tip, just like this letter is here. So because this letter is like this, the foam will come right out. So in the text, anytime you're looking at the text, when you pull this down, you notice that these are just your fonts. And here we have our monograms and then the smaller fonts. So that's what these little letters mean, the M and the F and things like that. Okay, so those are just the different types of fonts. If you wanted to see your fonts really big, you can just click right here and you can see the whole list of your fonts, and you can increase the size of this window. So you can take out all the fonts, and I believe that this Chroma has about 150 different types of fonts, which is great. Now, another cool thing is that if you have built-in fonts in your computer, whether it's a Mac or a PC, you can always go to the TT, and here you can pick whatever fonts that you can, and you can always import fonts into the computer by TrueType fonts. So let's say I wanted to do this little Mickey Mouse text here. Let's zoom out again. In that design, we can right click, and there it is again. So here, that was the Mickey font. So here, if you just selected it all, we can select all of it, go to your underlay, remove the underlay, and you're done. So on this particular font, you'd have to put little caps here. Remember, anywhere there's an opening, you'd have to put a little cap on it, unless you would close that off with the actual stitches itself. So there is a way to make it where it closes it off. As long as you have stitches running along the edges, you're fine. All right, so that's how you make the caps on Inspire. It is doable. It just takes a little bit of time, but it's not a big deal. You can do it. So now we're going to switch over to Chroma Lux so you can see the difference. All right, here we are in Chroma Lux, and we're going to show you how easy it is to create puff embroidery. Now, right off the bat, when we click our text tool, let's just click right on the middle of the screen. I'm going to put puff. Now, if we look at our list of text, you'll notice that there's a lot of fonts. And here we're going to scroll down a little bit. You're going to notice these are the monogram ones, and they do kind of say what they are on the side, just in case you didn't know. And then we have this right here, the P. These are pre-digitized fonts that are, they already have the caps and everything included. And then here you have the smaller fonts and your vintage fonts and your applique fonts. So Chroma Lux has about 250 types of fonts, and it also has those pre-digitized puff fonts for you. Now you can take a regular font and convert it to puff if you wanted to. So let's keep this one on the screen, and I'm going to hit F7 so that we go to the selection tool, and it automatically makes it like this. Now remember, anytime you're doing these type of fonts for puff, you want to increase the density. So if I go to my density right here, let's go to the 0.18 again. All right. If I run through this, we're going to remove the underlay. Remember, always remove the underlay. That's a crucial step in it. So this is almost ready for puff. If I wanted to add the caps to this, all I'd have to do is go to my fill type. And when I click on the fill type, you notice that it says 3D foam. So if I click 3D foam and I click apply, it's automatically going to add the caps for me. So let's play this through so you can see what that looks like. So you notice it created a little cap right here to seal, to break off the edge. I didn't have to do that. And it created another cap right there. And again, all these little stops that you see, these little big ends, are caps that it's creating to make sure that it cuts the foam. And there it goes, it made another cap. There it is again. You can see that it's creating the caps for you. Wow, it's making all the caps for you. So you can take any text and it will convert it to puff for you if you wanted. So let's change the text, and we're gonna go and select one of the already pre-digitized fonts for puff. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna click that and right click. Notice I'm typing on the screen. Now this one has an underlay already. Well, it's not an underlay, but it's more like a base to make it stand out. Now this is one of the pre-digitized fonts already. There's nothing to do. You don't have to do anything. The only thing you might have to do is remove, not even, you see that? You don't even have to remove the underlay. It does everything for you. So let's take this top one and move it. And we're gonna run just the bottom one by itself. Let's put that front and center. Let's zoom in real nice. And I'm gonna show you. Let's notice how it's already dense. So if we were to select that letter and we check the density, the second layer is at 0.15, the first layer is at 40. So you have this one at 40, then the puff layer is at 1.5. And let's run through it. Let's take a look. So notice it's gonna lay down my base first. It's gonna give me all the outlines of the letters. And then it's gonna start with the caps. And notice how it's doing a couple little stitches. Now some of these zigzag stitches that you see here are just to bridge the gap and hold the threads together so that a gap doesn't appear when this thing comes back around, okay? So you notice that it's doing these extra little zigzag stitches. Those are all to keep the stitches from coming apart. See where they meet, it's going to do an overlap. So it's doing that. It's going to create the caps, and notice it's doing the little tack down stitch for the foam. It's not a heavy zigzag or a heavy underlay. It's just a very light underlay for it to navigate through the letters without having to cut and trim. And it's doing everything real nice. And I just had to show you what it looks like for real. So this is the same file with the puff, with the 3D foam that matches the actual thread that goes on top of it. And you'll notice that you don't see those little black dots anymore on the edges. There are little finger thingies that are sticking out of the thread, and that's just the foam peeking out through the thread. But don't worry, a simple heat gun application will make those little things shrink. They'll get tucked back in, or you can always use a needle or something like that to poke it back in, and you'll have some really nice looking 3D foam. The letters are already digitized, the caps are already done. You really don't have to do anything, and if you wanted, you can convert practically any text to puff. So the first example that I have, let me show you something here. Let me write puff again, and in Chroma, let's pick a different font. We're gonna go with the Blippo font right there. There it is. So just so you can see, let's zoom in on that one. So in these letters, I can convert these to puff. So if I select it, I can go to my fill type, and if I hit a 3D foam and hit apply, it will automatically change the density for me. Notice it changed the density to 0.15. That's fine. And let's run this one through to see, because sometimes you always have to make sure that it put the cap. So if this was done correctly, there should be a cap here, there should be a cap here, there should be one at each end, there should be one at each end of the F, as well as one right here in the center, because notice these are just parallel stitches and there's a gap right there. So if this was done correctly, it should do all of them. So it's always a good idea for you to run through the file first so that you can see if it in fact did everything it was supposed to. So here we go. Note it's doing the underlay, so we have to remove that underlay, but it did do the caps on the P. It's doing the caps on the U. Again, we have to make a mental note to remove the underlay. It's doing, this is not a cap right there, but that one is and that one is. So the only thing that's missing is that it did not do the cap right in the center. And in this example right here, I used black foam under a very bright thread so that you could see what happens. So as I peel the foam away, you'll notice that there's little pieces of black foam sticking out from the thread. That's why it has to be really dense. Now a heat gun will take care of that and push it back in. Now because we didn't have the foam tips, or because we didn't have the end caps on the F, take a look at this. You'll notice that the tip of the F is still it didn't break clean, and the foam is just like ripped apart right there. So that's why it's really important for you to do your end caps. And right here, I'm gonna do that little satin stitch. So I'm gonna start right from the outside, work my way in, outside, work my way in, right click. Make sure you select it first, click apply. And then here we can right click, duplicate, and we're gonna put another one right here. And we can hit F7 so we can select it, and we're gonna just put it right on the edge just like that. Now it's just a matter of taking that and putting it underneath the letters themselves. Here you have to break it up here. You're gonna select it, right click, and break up text. So now we have the puff, and we're gonna take these little satins. One is gonna go on under my first F, and the next one is gonna go under the second. But I want that to come first. There we go. Notice it went under, and we're gonna do the same thing for that one. And there we have it. So now when we run through that, let's run through it again. Let's just get to it right there. You'll notice that it's gonna start with the cap. Oh, we didn't remove the underlay. Let's take care of that real quick. Select it, go to my underlay, remove that underlay, click apply, and now we are good to go. So let's run through it. And there it is. Notice there's no underlay. There is that little tack down stitch, and we're good to go. After making the changes, I ran the file one more time and noticed that the F is nice and clean now. The front of the F, that little tip of the F, is no longer torn, and it looks just great, and it's nice and flush. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode on how to create puff on Inspire and Luxe. As you can see, the Luxe version just makes it so much easier. They've taken all the guesswork out of it. They remove the underlay, they add the caps, and they just make it so much easier. And if you like the content that we're creating here at Chroma, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and smash that notification bell so that you know when we're coming out with the next great content. And remember, leave some comments below and let us know what else you're interested in watching. So we'll see you on the next one. See you guys later.